Ayurveda, right? In India and all around the world, and especially in India, is known to be this mystical science where you go to see a practitioner. He may or may not check your pulse, but give you a few powders and spices and herbs, and then you magically feel better. So it's hardly something that goes through your intellect and comprehension. And a lot of people in the last, I would say, 100 years or 20, 50 years in our generation moved away from Ayurveda gradually. However, in the last few years, last 3, 4 years, curiosity has been brought back to the science that this is definitely beyond the turmeric. It's definitely beyond the ginger. And I'm here to talk to you about principles of Ayurveda, which to me are extremely, extremely powerful, but rarely ever talked about. So first, let's talk about what is Ayurveda, right? Ayurveda is beyond your doshas. In the West, Ayurveda gained popularity, yes, for the turmeric and the ginger and the ashwagandha, but also the whole concept that, hey, I'm able to take a quiz and know that I belong to a certain body type. That's right. So it's like they're primarily three doshas, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And in my presentation on Ayurveda, I'm going to spend no time on this, which is rare. Okay. Because so a lot of people know what doshas are, and the other population that does not know, I'm going to quickly talk about it. Okay. So doshas are, you know, in Ayurveda, or what become really popular of it today, is that you can identify what tendencies your body and mind has based on certain elements that are dominant in your body. So it's a very exciting concept. I think anytime that you can take a quiz and put yourself in a box and yet be unique, it gives you the reasons for why, hey, I am a certain way, or I eat a certain way, or why potatoes don't suit me, but they suit my sister, or why I like to be a night owl and somebody else likes to have their full night's sleep. So it kind of answers a lot of questions about yourself, right? So okay. That's what, yeah, so that's what doshas does, right? So that's what's become really popular in the West. You take a quiz. I personally stay away from doshas. I think it's never important to know what doshas are if you can know everything else that I'm going to be talking about today. The other thing that became very popular about Ayurveda is the practices, practices of oil pulling, practices of nasya, which is nose drops. There's various practices which became really popular. So people said, okay, Ayurveda is about doshas, it's about herbs, and it's about practices. But to me, Ayurveda is really about universal principles that don't change from one country to the other, principles that don't change from one time to the other. For example, like gravity is gravity, whether you're in Japan or you're in Australia or you're in India. The sun will rise and, produce heat on the earth. And when it will set, there will be moon, which will play with the tides. Those things don't change. And all of Ayurveda is based on principles that are universal and that are timeless. And that part of Ayurveda is rarely ever talked about. And that's what I really want to highlight, because to me, these are like aha moments. It's also, I would say, it's the diet and lifestyle of the yogis. Yogis in India lived in the Himalayas, were able to live to be centenarians, which is above 100 years, in a very healthy manner, without really having to resort to their chia seeds and kale and fish oils, just primarily with a diet which was Ayurvedic and Sattvic. It's really the manual to life and living. It has everything from food, lifestyle, and herbs. It's a full body and mind science. And it understood the word homeostasis before the term homeostasis was coined. Now, I understand a lot of people don't actually know what homeostasis is, but homeostasis is a state of body, is a state of your body that is required for human beings to stay in health, right? So what is homeostasis in the Ayurvedic world, right? So and to us in the West, homeostasis is just numbers on a blood report, right? So every time we know that, hey, I'm not in balance, we don't understand what balance is, but we understand what imbalance is. Say, I'm not feeling well, my temperature is high, or my blood pressure is high. And we look at a blood report. When it is in a certain range, we say we are in homeostasis. When we go and get all our vitals, our EKG, our pulse, and we say this is all in a certain range, which means my body is in a certain place, which the doctors called homeostasis, which means that there's nothing out of balance. But how unintuitive it is to understand balance by understanding imbalance. The way we really understand balance is only at the time that we are imbalanced. And to me, that's extremely counterintuitive. That's extremely unproductive and very against what we should be as human beings, how intuitive we should be. And Ayurveda really helps you to understand what balance is. I say we've understood the ecosystem of the universe really well. We understand a hot day for a hot day. We understand when it's raining, it's going to do something to our environment. We understand what the snow will do. We know when the universe, when the ecosystem around us goes out of balance or goes out of homeostasis, we understand it very quickly. We don't need to have a temperature to measure stuff. We can feel it. And when it is in a balance. So right? When we kind of so at that point, right, we understand this is a good day, this is a balanced day, this feels like a right day. We need to start understanding our body in that same exact way, where we don't need to rely upon an external source to know how we're feeling. And that's something that we're going to be talking about today. How do you do? I am fortunate enough to be coming from a family where my grandfather, who was an Ayurvedic healer, lived up to 95 years in a very, very healthful manner. And when I say that, it means that his body, his vitals, his blood pressure, cholesterol, he had no issues at all. He finally passed away because he fractured his leg. He was on the bed because of bed sores and he became immobile. That's what happened. But till he was 92, he was walking without any support to go to public hospitals in Bombay, supplying medicines to each person from bed to bed, supporting them. I also come from a family where my husband's family, his grandfather in Mumbai is 98 years old, and he's extremely healthy too. He's an author. He is a consultant to the Prime Minister of India, and he's lived this primarily Ayurvedic life without ever having to check his dosha. And the principles that they've lived by is basically something that I'm going to be talking about today, giving some inference from me. Okay, so what is health according to Ayurveda? Okay, let's look at the definition of health according to Ayurveda before we move into all the good stuff. And health according to Ayurveda is this. This is the definition in Sanskrit, and I'm going to read it. Samadoshi sama agnischa samadhatu malakriha prasanna atma indriya mana swastha iti abhidiyate. And what this actually translates into is balanced doshas, balanced tissues, balanced digestive fire. So Ayurveda understood how important digestion is. The West has taken 4,000 years after that. And I'm not criticizing it, but I'm just saying the insight that Ayurveda had. Today in the West, in the last 40 years, they've understood that digestion is important. Your probiotic environment is important. But Ayurveda understood that very clearly. Timely elimination is a big thing. And your fulfilled mind, soul, and senses also are a part of being in that state of balance, right? So it has defined balance for us like that.